How do you play and experiment in order to learn a new skill? Simpler is better. Keep those experiments super, super simple. They don't have to be complex. They don't have to be these like big, long interactions with AI. Actually, a lot of learning can come out of a very short interaction.
Hey listeners, this is Leading Up, the Work Shift. I'm your host, Elizabeth Weingarten. Whether you're reeling from a layoff or clinging to a dead-end job, getting to the next step in your career takes serious energy. You might just wish you had a career coach. But finding the right person and booking sessions can cost serious time and money. Now, there's another option. In this week's episode, we'll explore how AI can step in, identifying your career strengths, pinpointing areas for improvement, and helping you test your skills through small experiments. My guest is a coach herself. She's spent her career building learning cultures wherever she goes. Rebecca Stern is the Senior Director of Leadership Development at Udemy. Rebecca shares practical ideas on where AI can best be used as a thought partner and a coach to help you achieve your goals. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Rebecca.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's so good to be here with you.
So most people don't know this, but you're actually a big part of the reason that I work at Udemy. So we met at a conference several years back, and what really stuck out to me is how much you said you loved working at Udemy, you loved the culture. And so when I saw a job posting, a few months after that really aligned with my skills and interests, I applied, and you were so supportive of me across that whole journey. So I want to say how much I appreciate you being there for me during my own career transition, which is something that we talk a lot about on the show.
Yeah, no, of course. It's so, sometimes those moments feel like kismet, like you meet somebody, you're in this big transition period of your life. And yeah, they're always a part of your story. So I'm glad that our paths crossed at that moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm also so excited today to have you on the show and to get to learn from you about another tool that we can all use to grow our careers. Although I think for some people, it may not be obvious yet how to do that. And we're going to talk a little bit about this today. But that tool is generative AI. Mm-hmm. And so before we start, I do want to acknowledge that a lot of listeners might have a variety of different feelings or experiences about AI. Pew Research shows that about half of Americans say they are more concerned rather than excited about AI in their day-to-day life. But you're somebody who really welcomes the change. And I'm curious, what would you say to people right now who are AI skeptics?
You're right. I am quite excited about AI. And I think that's because I've spent years now, really since the launch of ChatGPT in 2022, when it became available. And I think at that point in time, it was met with a lot of excitement, right? Like everyone was really excited about this new tool. And then came the fear, then came the uncertainty, then came, the hesitation around it when it started to become more real. But what has really kept my energy up around AI is just this continual curiosity around what could it do? How could it help unblock me and the challenges that myself or my team face every day? And so I always come back to this place of learning and curiosity and play and experimentation, which I think helps me stay in a good relationship with AI, right? And really viewing it as a tool that's helping to unlock things I want to do or create new pathways to do those things rather than something I should fear or shy away from.
I think it's such a healthy way to relate to it. How do you relate to this kind of big change with more curiosity than fear, even when we're not really sure exactly what the future holds when it comes to AI? On this podcast, we talk all about how to navigate moments of uncertainty and transition in our careers. Mm-hmm. Human coaching isn't always accessible for everyone. And I think particularly in these transitions, it may not be kind of financially accessible for folks. And that's where sometimes AI now can step in. So I'm curious to hear first, what do you think can we get from an AI coach that we might not be able to get from a human coach?
Yeah, well, I think you touched on some of the things that I personally am excited about in terms of AI supporting individuals during really critical moments in their life. Accessibility to coaching has always been a barrier to entry, right? It's been something that you have to pay top dollar for, or maybe you have to be at a certain level of leadership in an organization in order to gain access to that developmental experience. So it's been more of a limited resource. So the idea that now AI can provide coaching experiences, that maybe aren't driven by a human per se, it's not human to human, but can still help you discover how you're relating to a topic and help you think through things. That to me is really exciting because it's going to create more equity in terms of access to coaching. And it's going to help level the playing field for many individuals in the world of work or outside the world of work to help them get a leg up, right? And to really achieve their goals by leveraging that as a resource.
Talk to me a little bit about when you started to experiment with AI as a career coach, or as AI as a tool to kind of help you grow and develop in your career.
Yeah. So for me, I have a background in executive coaching. So coaching has always been something that is near and dear to my heart. And one of the things that I've personally benefited from coaching is to have that sounding board, right? Somebody that you can turn to, that you can talk about an issue with, and really help discover your own pathway, right? Find those answers through inquiry. And that has played a really special and powerful part in my own learning and development journey. And so being on a learning team, I always think about how can I build and scale those experiences to the masses, right? More people beyond just that one-to-one, that one-to-one human interaction. It's hard to scale sometimes in terms of coaching, right? You have to have the right number of coaches, and, coaches have, needs you have to pay attention to in terms of like how many coaching sessions can they do a day before they, get fatigued and things like that. So where we really started to play as a learning team was very early on in the journey to say, we were noticing that we had a lot of job aids or exercises that were in PDFs. And we were relying on the folks coming to development programs to bring their context to apply those things in their daily lives. And so we started there to say AI is a tool for personalization and to do personalization at scale. And so we simply started with this notion of how might we take static development exercises and turn them into more immersive exercises that feel personalized for the learner. And so we started there. So we started with our leadership development program, and we started to just pivot those, PDF by PDF, getting them out of a static form and taking them to a more engaging like chatbot form. And we tested that, right? We piloted it, we tested it, and we got really great feedback. It was being used more, and people were drawing more value from it.
So you've been getting at this a little bit, but I'm curious, how do you think has AI changed what's possible in coaching or in that coaching relationship?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what it's changed is that you as an individual now have the agency to reach out and get coaching really anytime you feel like you need it. And I have a practice of doing this, I would say, even in my daily. If I'm facing an issue, I'm not currently in a coaching relationship. Sometimes I'll turn to my AI tool of choice, write a really quick prompt that might give a bit about the context, give it some instructions that, hey, I want you to play the role of a coach. I want you to help me think from multiple perspectives or different lenses. I want you to call me out when I'm too stuck on something, whatever it may be that I'm feeling like is a blocker for me. And then I have a conversation, in the tool. And that has been really powerful for me to, think a different way or put myself in someone else's shoes and gain perspective. So the exciting thing there, right, is that now everyone has the agency to gain perspective in the moment of need.
Is what people need right now from coaching different than it's been in the past?
Yeah, in my experience, I think people seek out coaching when they have a current issue or current challenge that's unresolved. That in and of itself is a pretty enduring thing right? I think almost on the daily, people have current unresolved challenges or issues that they're facing. And so coaching there's always been a need for it. I think where, maybe some of the topics might change that people want to talk about. But I think, when you think about AI coaching versus human to human coaching, it comes down to what type of connection are you seeking? Because with AI as a coach, you aren't going to get that human to human connection that you need. If you think about challenges that folks might be facing that are highly emotional, and you need someone to be in the moment with you and to hold space and to help you embody those feelings and really make sense of those feelings, that's a type of coaching that you aren't likely going to get from an AI, right? We're just not quite there yet in terms of the advancements. And I think it's always going to feel different with a screen versus a human to human connection moment. So I think beyond like the topic or the reason why people might seek out coaching, I think it comes down to, is this a quick transactional type relationship that someone's seeking versus a real true deep exploration that might get at beliefs and thoughts and feelings, that are intertwined around a situation.
I think it's such an important point to make. I do want to get super practical here because I think, for people that are listening to this and thinking, yes, an AI career coach is what I need. I'm curious, let's maybe walk through a scenario. So let's take maybe the example of someone who wants to get promoted to the next level in their career. How would they start to work with an AI if that is maybe their goal?
Yeah, there's so many ways that you could start, right? So, and that's the beauty of AI, right? Is it can actually help you on a diverse set of tasks. So if you think about going into a promotion context, it's likely that your organization has some sort of promotion criteria, right? So you could start with asking AI to create a rubric for you, or like a little mini self-assessment. How well am I meeting each of these criteria as a way for you to reflect on, am I really meeting the criteria that my organization is saying is needed in order for me to be operating at the next level in terms of promotion? Another way you could think about using it in a promotion scenario is, updating a resume or practicing for, many promotion cycles have some sort of like mini interview associated with it. So how do I tell my story? How do I help others understand the impact that I've had at this organization? What business results have I demonstrated? What are the outcomes that I've driven? Oftentimes telling that story isn't necessarily intuitive, right? There's, I think, a multitude of ways. And if you sit down and you really map out, like, what are the steps I need to go through or the process I need to go through to get promoted, I think what you'll find is there's actually more discrete tasks that AI can be woven into or designed into that process. And fundamentally, it's going to change the way you work, right? It's changing the way you're approaching that process, but can be a thought partner for you along the way.
I think thought partner is such a key term to use here because what we're talking about is not just feed AI a prompt and then kind of walk away, but really that engaged kind of dialogue and really using the conversation to help you figure out what's next and continuously kind of refining, getting clear on what exactly you want and need in that moment. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit, again, thinking really practically, what have you seen as far as prompts or approaches that work really well in terms of, helping you get the most out of your interaction with an AI?
Yeah, there's a number of frameworks out there. I think you can pick your favorite one that help you structure your prompts in a way where you get better results, right? So that might look like giving AI a lot of context, right? So that might be explaining what you're seeking or what you're trying to do or the current issue or challenge that you're up against and facing. Then you're going to want to think about instructions, right? Like, what do you actually want the tool to do? Do you want it to act like a coach? Do you want it to offer offer a new draft of your communication? Like, what is it that you want it to do before you just kind of write a stream of consciousness prompt and then ship it? The other great thing is there's a ton of prompt libraries out there where you can take great prompts that people have already worked on and use them or tailor them to shortcut some of that upfront work for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I have definitely found myself kind of looking at some of those prompt libraries to get inspired. And I'm wondering too, if we use the scenario or the example of somebody who's maybe trying to navigate a career pivot right now or some kind of reinvention, it makes me think that maybe there are ways, kind of different inputs that you could feed AI to help get creative about what could my next career step look like. Maybe it's feeding it, different work products that you've done in the past or different online profiles that you have. But I'm wondering about that particular scenario too, how you would think about working with an AI if you're trying to figure out what's next in your career.
Yeah. Career pivots are sometimes hard because they're filled with a lot of uncertainty because you're fundamentally trying to turn into something that maybe you haven't done before, right? That can also be a similar experience to someone starting out in their career, right? They might have a lot of academic knowledge or knowledge that they've gained, through coursework or something like that. But fundamentally, they're not quite sure what that on-the-job experience actually looks like. So you're right. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can get creative there. You could, maybe collect a series of job descriptions that you find on LinkedIn or Indeed, other types of job sites. And maybe you're collecting the ones that you like that resonate, but you're not quite sure like what a day in the life would be. That in and of itself could be a prompt, right? Like read these job descriptions and create for me, like what would a transcript for a movie be, right? Or, what would a day in the life of this type of professional be? And it's a way to, I think differently, right? It's coming back to that kind of core concept in coaching of having something you're not sure about or you're trying to figure out, and then creating really clear action steps to gain more insight or gain more knowledge that helps you, I like to say, clear the fog, right? In terms of your thinking or your cognition.
What would you say are some kind of worst use cases, or where should people really not be using AI when it comes to this kind of career coaching process?
Yeah, I would say don't use AI in replacement of you, right? And your expertise. I think that's the core theme that, if you look in the news, right, there's been many stories since AI has been released of, someone submitting a deliverable or, giving a work product that isn't their own thinking, right? It has false citations in it. Or I've heard stories from recruiters, right, where a job bot, or like a bot has applied for a job, and then you get to an first interview stage, and it's not actually a person that is there. And so I think there's many of these experiences that you can point to, but I think the central thing it comes back to is when folks are allowing AI to be them or take more of their authorship of a situation. I think if you keep AI in the realm of a tool and you use it just like you would any other tool, that you still have agency, you still have control in the situation, and it's just another tool in your tool belt. I think that's where you're operating from a really safe space. You're operating from an editor-in-chief role, right? I might describe it as. And I think in terms of career transitions, it's going to be really tempting. I know right now the feeling is the job market is hard. Speed is the name of the game, right? People seem to be feeling pressure to apply more quickly than ever before. So it is going to be really easy to want to turn to AI and allow it to do the bulk of the work. My advice there would be, don't ever forget about that. Fundamentally, it's you, right, that you're representing in that job transition, and they're buying you, right? They're not buying kind of what AI has produced, in a sense.
Yeah, and it also strikes me that the more you give away your agency to AI, the less you're also going to be learning in the process, right? And that
Absolutely.
so much of what makes a transition or a pivot or a reinvention successful is your ability to learn new skills and to grow in that way.
Exactly. And just still learning from that process too, right? So I think if you're embracing AI as a partner that can help you create moments of reflection and embed learning, help arrive at key takeaways from the experiences that you've had, that's where it's going to mirror what a really great coaching relationship is at the end of the day, right? A process that helps you uncover or deepen your thinking and help you find clarity or insight in a place where you are feeling really uncertain. It's not going to give you the answers, right? So if you're looking to AI to give you the answers, you're probably not using it quite right, at the end of the day.
Totally. I was really interested in some research finding that one of the top questions that people have been asking AI in the past several months is this question of, what is my purpose?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that strikes me as the type of question that, of course, it's a very important question, but it is not the type of question that AI can answer for you, right?
That's right.
Maybe it's a question that AI can provide some guidance as far as how to think about that or different resources that you can explore. But I do think, to your point, we have to be careful about what types of questions we ask and kind of how we trust it as a tool to help guide us versus giving us definitive answers to some of these particularly really significant questions about our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. If AI gives you a response to what is my purpose, I be very cautious, right?
Totally. Although, when I read that, I was very curious to ask it about that myself. So just to see what it would say.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted if it shares anything really profound.
Yeah.
I want to transition briefly to the context of Udemy, because you've been really leading the charge when it comes to our organizational upskilling on AI and those efforts. And I'm wondering, what have you learned from that experience about how to help folks learn new AI skills and tools? Because I think some people listening to this are AI pros, but other people may be a little more hesitant to start to learn AI. And so I'm wondering, what have you learned from that experience that might apply to folks who are earlier on the upskilling journey?
Yeah, what I've learned is that simpler is better. Keep those experiments super, super simple. They don't have to be complex. They don't have to be these like big, long interactions with AI. Actually, a lot of learning can come out of a very short interaction. So one of our very first days of learning this year was all about playing with inputs and outputs. So we asked people to either use an image as an input to AI or try and generate an image as an output from AI. And what you saw was this real explosion of creativity. And we asked people to then share that in a shared Slack channel. And you saw a lot of people get super creative, get some, use some humor and levity and fun. But what you saw is a glimpse behind like how people were using prompts to drive different outputs. And that in and of itself, playing in that way can help you strengthen your prompt engineering skills in a really significant way.
Yeah. And I will say I have loved what I've seen from your team, and it's really driven forward my own skills in AI and just the kind of the ease that I feel in connecting with and navigating some of those tools. So I want to transition to our rapid fire round.
Okay.
So just give me your first instinct. We're calling this speed career coaching.
Okay. First
question, very important one. Cookie or donut?
Oh, donut. Yeah.
Best career advice you've ever received?
Best career advice. Your job as a leader is to put yourself out of a job. And the essence of that is really that you train up and you coach up your team where they can do your job. And you've put yourself out of a job. And so it's something that I've really taken to heart over my career. And my mission as a leader is to just really develop the most fantastic team.
I love that. What's the worst career advice?
Oh, worst career advice. To be a passive participant in your career. I'm always an advocate for agency and for you to recognize your own agency in your situation. And when you have an event like a layoff happen to you, it can often feel exactly that something is happening to you. And to take a moment to get grounded in that situation and realize the agency that you have ahead of you, I think is a really hard thing, but it's a really beautiful thing. And so during those difficult moments, my advice would be like, don't ever lose your agency. Remember that you're always an active author of your life and your career.
What's your best advice to regain career confidence during periods of change?
Regain career confidence. I would say that anytime during times of change, it's hard to make forward progress because you feel like your footing is really loose, right? You feel like you can't quite get the ground under you. And so steeping back into some really traditional methods of reflection can often be really helpful to gain that footing again. So I know when I'm feeling like things are changing or I'm not quite sure where to go, I go back to journaling or I go back to writing down what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, which really helps me have a record of it and helps me then use that as data to inform my choices going forward.
So we're putting together a playlist from all of our guests this season, and we're putting together a playlist of different kind of pump-up songs. What you listen to when you're going through some hard things and you really need to get your energy back up. So what is your pump-up song?
Okay, so this is going to be really recent and maybe controversial, but recently I've had Fate of Ophelia on by Taylor Swift. I would not consider myself a Swiftie by any means. I think that's like a very high bar and standard to me, but I have always really admired the thoughtfulness that she puts into her writing and hearing the story behind that song. It has been a pump up song for me, for sure. So I'm going to go with that.
I love it. Thank you for edging into the controversy there. That's great.
Yeah, This has been so fun, Elizabeth. I really appreciate you having me on as a guest.
Oh, it's been delightful. There is so much that our listeners can learn from you, Rebecca, and I'm so glad that you were here to share your knowledge and expertise with them. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we might just read your review on the show. Check out courses that you need to upskill your own career at udemy.com. This podcast is produced by Udemy in partnership with Pod People. Until next time, keep leading up.